I'm going to count to 3, and if you don't take your hands off those children, I'm going to make you regret every life choice that brought you to this moment. Sylvia Okonkwo stood in the pouring rain outside the Kang mansion, her goddess braids whipping around her face like weapons, her brown eyes blazing with the kind of fury that could level cities. Her professional blazer hung torn at the shoulder, mascara streaking down her dark skin, but she looked like a goddess of war ready to burn everything down. 1. 3 security guards holding back screaming 6-year-old twins hesitated. They'd been trained to handle hostile situations, but nobody had prepared them for a 5'7" Nigerian woman who looked ready to fight God himself. 2. Sylvia Sum, Suah shrieked, her small voice breaking with desperation. Tell them! Tell Appa you didn't steal it! Beside her, Eugene was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe, her selective mutism completely forgotten. Please don't go! Please, we need you! 3. Sylvia lunged forward, but 2 more guards materialized, blocking her path. Behind the ornate iron gates, Kang Min-jun stood motionless in his perfect black suit, his expression carved from ice, but his hand trembled as he gripped a diamond necklace that was destroying everything. Their eyes met across the rain-soaked courtyard, and the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Min-jun, Sylvia said, and the way she broke his name open sounded like her heart shattering in real time. Look at me. Actually, look at me. You know me. You know me. I would never do this. His jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jump. Oh, the necklace was in your room, in your closet, hidden in your things. Because someone planted it there, Sylvia shouted over the rain. I'm being set up and you're too scared to see it. A perfectly manicured hand appeared on Min-jun's arm. Choi Eugene, elegant and dry under her designer umbrella, tilted her head with practiced sympathy. Min-jun, I know this is difficult, but the evidence is clear. We need to protect the children from people like her. Sylvia's eyes snapped to Eugene like a predator spotting prey. People like me? Say what you really mean. Say it with your chest. Eugene's smile sharpened. I meant thieves, but if you're hearing something else, perhaps that's your own insecurity speaking. You know what I hear? Sylvia took a step forward, and even the guards looked nervous. I hear a woman so desperate for a man who doesn't want her that she'd destroy an innocent person. I hear a snake in expensive shoes. I hear, enough! Min-jun's voice cut through the night like a blade. You have 10 minutes to leave my property. After that, I call the police and have you arrested for theft and deported. Deported. The word hit Sylvia like a physical blow. Back to Atlanta. Back to her father who still couldn't look at her without seeing her dead sister. Back to the guilt that had chased her across an ocean. Appa, no! Eugene found her voice screaming louder than she had in 4 years. She didn't do it! We can prove it! We have it recorded! Suah yelled. The camera! We saw everything! To your rooms, Min-jun commanded, his voice rising. Now! This is not a discussion. I hate you! Suah screamed as the guards carried them toward the mansion. I hate you and I'll never forgive you. The twins fought like wildcats, their small fists pounding against the guards' shoulders, their voices raw with betrayal. Sylvia watched them disappear through the massive doors, and something inside her chest didn't just break. It shattered into pieces so small they could never be found again. She stood there for 1 more second, rain pouring down her face, mixing with tears she refused to let fall where he could see. Then she bent down, picked up her battered suitcase from where it had tumbled down the marble steps, its contents spilling across wet stone. Children's drawings, a Nigerian flag pin, a photo of her and the twins at the beach, all 3 of them laughing like the world was theirs. She looked up at Min-jun one final time. His face was stone, but his eyes... God, his eyes looked haunted. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, she said quietly, and when you figure it out, I hope you can live with what you've done. Then Sylvia Okonkwo turned her back on the man she'd fallen in love with and walked away from the only family she'd known in 3 years, her spine straight and her head high, even as her heart bled out onto the pavement. Behind her, Min-jun stood frozen, watching her disappear into the rain-soaked night. Eugene's hand was still on his arm, her touch like ice pretending to be warmth. "You did the right thing," Eugene murmured. "She was getting too comfortable, too close. This is better for everyone." Min-jun didn't respond. Couldn't. Because somewhere in the locked vault where his heart used to be, sirens were screaming that he'd just destroyed something irreplaceable. But Kang Min-jun was a man who'd built a billion-won security empire on control and certainty. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't second-guess. He protected what was his at any cost. He had no idea that this time the cost was everything that mattered. Subscribe now because what happens next will break you in the best way. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Lagos, Seoul, Atlanta, London. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to where this love story started, 18 months before everything fell apart. 18 months earlier, Sylvia Okonkwo stood at the base of the Kang Mansion's steps, staring up at the cliffside estate like it was a dragon she had to slay. "Okay. Sylvia," she muttered to herself, smoothing down her navy blazer. "You got this. Howard University degree in child psychology. 3 years of successful placements in Korea. Fluent in Korean, English, and Igbo. You are a qualified, capable professional who is absolutely not intimidated by a billionaire CEO and his traumatized children." She took exactly 2 confident steps before her heel caught on the marble and she face-planted directly into an ornamental bush. "Ah! Ah!" she yelped in Nigerian pidgin, scrambling out of the shrubbery with leaves stuck in her goddess braids. "Sylvia, you don't carry yourself, go disgrace yourself? Jesus Christ!" "Ms. Okonkwo?" a warm voice called out, barely suppressing laughter. "Are you injured?" An older Korean woman in traditional hanbok stood at the mansion's entrance. Saw her eyes crinkling with amusement. She hurried down to help Sylvia up, brushing leaves off her shoulders. "I'm Mrs. Song, the head housekeeper. Please tell me nothing is broken except your dignity." Sylvia laughed despite her mortification. "My pride took the biggest hit, but I'll survive. And please call me Sylvia. I promise I'm usually more graceful." "Everyone falls on those steps the first time," Mrs. Song said kindly, switching to English. "I think Mr. Kang keeps them like that to humble people before they meet him." "Well, mission accomplished," Sylvia grinned, and Mrs. Song's professional reserve melted completely. As they walked through the mansion's interior, Sylvia's trained eye caught everything. The place was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the East Sea. On a modern Korean architecture blended with traditional elements, marble floors that probably cost more than she'd make in a lifetime. But it felt empty, like a museum instead of a home, like people existed here but didn't actually live. Mrs. Song's expression grew serious. "I should warn you, dear, Mr. Kang is demanding. Some would say impossible. After his wife passed 4 years ago, he changed, became harder. This house became a fortress instead of a home." "And the children?" Sylvia's professional instincts sharpened. "Sweet girls, brilliant actually, but they've been through 4 caregivers in 2 years. Mrs. Song's voice dropped. "They push everyone away before they can be abandoned again. The last woman lasted 3 weeks before she quit. I said they were too damaged to help." Rage flashed through Sylvia so quickly she had to physically restrain it. "Children aren't damaged, they're wounded. There's a massive difference." "Exactly what I told that woman." Mrs. Song nodded approvingly. "Which is why I'm hoping you'll be different." They stopped outside a bedroom door marked Suah and Sujin in Korean and English. Through the wood, Sylvia heard nothing. No laughter, no playing, no sounds of childhood, just suffocating silence. "Don't give up on them," Mrs. Song whispered. "They need someone who won't." Sylvia knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. The room stopped her in her tracks. It was split down the middle like a physical manifestation of grief. Suah's side was covered in dark, violent charcoal drawings, storms destroying cities, people breaking apart, the world ending in flames. Sujin's side was pale and nearly empty, like the child who lived there was trying to disappear. 2 6-year-old girls sat on separate beds, backs to each other, wearing matching school uniforms. Neither turned when Sylvia entered. Professional Sylvia would have introduced herself gently, established boundaries, followed the therapeutic protocol she'd learned at Howard. But Sylvia had never been good at following scripts. "Damn," she said, looking around with genuine shock. "This is the most depressing room I've ever seen, and I once toured a maximum security prison." Both girls' heads whipped around, eyes wide. Adults didn't talk like that. "Who are you?" Suah demanded, her voice sharp with suspicion and something else, hope, maybe, buried deep. "I'm Sylvia Okonkwo, but you can call me Sylvia or Ms. Sylvia or that weird lady with the cool hair. I honestly don't care." She gestured to her goddess braids. "I'm from Nigeria, grew up in Atlanta, and your dad hired me to help you process some stuff. But looking at this room, I'm thinking we need to burn some sage first because the energy in here is tragic." Suah's mouth fell open. Are you making fun of us?" "Absolutely not. I'm making fun of whoever thought painting this room beige was a good idea. Who hurt you? Who made you live in a space that looks like sadness had a baby with depression?" A sound escaped Sujin's throat. Not quite a laugh, but close. Her small face was vulnerable, curious. Sylvia walked over to examine Suah's drawings more closely. "These are actually incredible. Dark as hell, but incredible. You're processing trauma through art, which is extremely healthy, much better than pretending everything's fine when your world has clearly exploded." "You're weird," Suah said, but her defensive walls had cracked slightly. "I get that a lot, usually right before security escorts me out." Sylvia sat down on the floor between their beds, crossing her legs casually. "Here's the deal, and I'm going to be straight with you because I don't believe in lying to kids. I can't fix you. You're not broken, so there's nothing to fix. You're hurt, and that's different. I can't make the hurt go away. Only you can do that, but I can sit with you while you figure it out." "The last 4 people said they'd help us too," Suah's voice cracked. "Then they left." "Then they were weak," Sylvia said bluntly. "And you deserved better than weak people who gave up on you." Sujin slid off her bed and approached slowly, like a small animal testing if this new human was safe. "Your hair is pretty." Sylvia's heart squeezed. Mrs. Song had warned her that Sujin barely spoke. This was a gift. "Thank you, baby. They're called goddess braids. In my culture, hair is sacred. It connects us to our ancestors, to our power. Want to touch them?" Sujin nodded and reached out tentatively. When her small fingers made contact with the braids, something in her tiny body relaxed. "In Nigeria, we have a saying," Sylvia continued softly. "Onye agana nwanaya." It means never abandon your family. I know I'm not your family. Maybe I never will be. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm not like the others. She held out both pinky fingers. "Well, pinky promise, but fair warning. Where I come from, breaking a pinky promise means your ancestors haunt you forever, so I take this very seriously." The twins looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them that only twins could understand. Then slowly they both linked their pinkies with hers. "Okay," Suah whispered, "but if you leave, we'll hate you forever." "That's fair," Sylvia agreed. "I'd hate me too." What none of them saw was the figure standing in the shadowed hallway watching through the cracked door. Kang Min-jun had been heading to his office when he'd heard an unfamiliar voice, warm and irreverent, and completely unlike any caregiver he'd hired. He watched this woman with braided hair make his daughters respond in ways he hadn't seen since before Sunhee died. Watched Sujin speak voluntarily. Watched Suah's walls crack. Watched something that looked dangerously like healing begin, and felt something in his chest that terrified him, because Min-jun had learned the hardest way that anything you loved could be ripped away. His parents in a car crash when he was 12, his grandmother who raised him, his wife to cancer that devoured her despite his money and power and desperate prayers. He'd sworn after Sunhee's death never to love that deeply again. Would protect his daughters but keep his own heart locked in a vault where it couldn't be destroyed. But watching Sylvia Okonkwo laugh with his children, he felt that vault's lock start to turn. He didn't know it yet, but that woman with the bright smile and foreign accent was about to become both his salvation and his destruction. That 18 months from now, he would stand in the rain and throw her away because he was too terrified to trust what his heart was screaming. But that morning, he simply watched and wondered and felt the first hairline crack appear in armor he'd spent 4 years building. 3 months slid by like water, each day building trust, brick by careful brick. Sylvia arrived every morning at 7 sharp, and the twins were always awake, waiting by the window even though they pretended they weren't. Their faces would light up when her beat-up Honda pulled into the circular driveway, and Sylvia pretended she didn't notice the way her heart expanded every single time. On a bright Tuesday morning, she found both girls in the kitchen watching Mrs. Song prepare breakfast with matching expressions of terminal boredom. "Why the long faces?" Sylvia called out, dropping her bag on the counter. "Did someone cancel Christmas? Did BTS disband? What's the tragedy?" "Mrs. Song won't let us help cook," Sua complained dramatically, throwing herself across the marble counter like a Victorian woman with the vapors. "She says we're too small." "Too messy," Mrs. Song corrected, but her eyes sparkled. "Last time they helped, I found rice in places rice should never exist. The chandelier, Sylvia, the chandelier." "That was an accident," Eugene protested, her voice stronger now, more confident. She spoke freely around Sylvia, the selective mutism melting away week by week. Sylvia laughed, the sound filling the sterile kitchen with warmth. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Mrs. Song, I'm about to teach these children to make jollof rice, which is basically a religious experience in Nigerian culture. Wars have been fought over this. Families have been divided. It's serious business." "Wars?" Sua's eyes went huge. "Over rice?" "Food wars," Sylvia clarified, rolling up her sleeves. "The best kind. Nigeria versus Ghana, eternal rivals." "Now come on, we're making the Nigerian version because obviously it's superior, and I will fight anyone who says different." What followed was beautiful chaos. Sylvia taught them to wash rice properly, to dice tomatoes and onions with child-safe knives, to measure spices with their hands the way her grandmother had taught her. She sang while they cooked, old Yoruba songs her mother used to hum, and the twins tried to follow along, mangling the words in ways that had all 3 of them crying with laughter. No, it's Iku Aro," Sylvia demonstrated, exaggerating the pronunciation. "It means good morning. Your turn." "Iku Aro," Eugene attempted, her tongue tripping over the unfamiliar tones. "Close enough. You're basically fluent now. We'll have you speaking Yoruba by summer." They were so absorbed in their lesson, Sua stirring the pot while Sylvia guided her hands, Eugene carefully measuring out bay leaves and thyme, that none of them noticed Min-jun standing in the doorway. He'd come downstairs for coffee before his 8 a.m. security briefing, but he'd stopped dead at the sound of laughter. Real laughter, the kind his daughters hadn't made since Sunhee died. He stood there frozen, watching Sylvia dance around his kitchen in her jeans and oversized sweater, her braids piled on top of her head, looking nothing like the professional therapist he'd hired and everything like someone who belonged there. "Now the secret ingredient," Sylvia was saying, pulling out a small container. "Maggi cubes. This is what makes it Nigerian. My Ghanaians use different seasoning, and that's why they're wrong." "You're very passionate about this," a deep voice said from the doorway. All 3 of them jumped. Sylvia spun around, wooden spoon in hand like a weapon, and came face to face with Kang Min-jun for the first time in 3 months. He was in full CEO mode, pristine suit, hair perfectly styled, expression unreadable, but his eyes were locked on the scene before him with something that might have been longing. "Mr. Kang," Sylvia said, suddenly aware that she was wearing fuzzy socks in his kitchen and probably had tomato sauce on her face. "Good morning. We're making jollof rice. It's a cultural education experience." "I can see that." His gaze traveled from her to his daughters, who were covered in flour and grinning like maniacs. "They seem very educated." "Appa!" Sua ran to him, leaving floury handprints on his expensive suit. "Sylvia's teaching us Nigerian cooking and songs, and she said we can learn Igbo next." Did she? Min-jun's eyes returned to Sylvia, and something in his expression made her stomach flip. That's quite ambitious. I believe in comprehensive cultural education, Sylvia said, lifting her chin. Studies show that children who learn multiple languages and cultural practices develop better cognitive flexibility and emotional intelligence. I'm aware, Min-jun said dryly. I did read your credentials before hiring you, Ms. Okonkwo. Then you know I'm extremely qualified to make a mess in your kitchen. Was that a smile? The corner of his mouth twitched so slightly she might have imagined it. Appa, taste it. Sujin thrust a spoon toward him. It's so good! Min-jun looked at the spoon like it might explode, then at Sylvia, then back at his daughter's hopeful face. He leaned down and took a small taste. His eyes widened. This is actually exceptional. Actually? Sylvia put a hand on her hip, mock offended. Sir, this is better than exceptional. This is transcendent. This is what angels eat in heaven. Put some respect on my jollof rice. This time he definitely smiled. Small, barely there, but real. My apologies, Ms. Okonkwo. This is transcendent rice. Thank you. She turned back to the stove, trying to ignore how her heart was racing. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to finish before the rice gets too soft. There's a very specific texture we're going for. Of course. He started to leave, then paused. Ms. Okonkwo? Yes. Thank you. For this. For them. His voice was quiet, genuine. They haven't been this happy in a long time. Before Sylvia could respond, he was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of expensive cologne and the feeling that something important had just shifted. Mrs. Song appeared from the pantry, grinning like the cat who got the cream. Well, well, well. Don't start, Sylvia warned. I didn't say anything. You're thinking it very loudly. I'm thinking that man hasn't smiled in 4 years, and you got one out of him in 5 minutes. It was barely a smile, more like a facial twitch. Mrs. Song's eyes twinkled. Keep telling yourself that, dear. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm. Sylvia would arrive early, spend the day with the twins, therapy disguised as play, healing disguised as laughter. They'd cook together. I'd paint together, go to the beach and collect shells while Sylvia told them stories about her childhood in Lagos and Atlanta. Slowly, carefully, she helped them build a bridge between their Korean heritage and the wider world. And somehow, without planning it, without even really noticing until it was too late, those moments began to include Min-jun. It started small. He'd come home earlier from work, joining them for dinner. Then he started asking about their day, actually listening to the answers. Then he began participating in Sylvia's cultural lessons, learning Nigerian proverbs alongside his daughters. The lizard that jumped from the high Iroko tree to the ground said he would praise himself if no one else did, Sylvia recited one evening as they all sat in the garden. It means you have to celebrate your own victories because nobody else will do it for you. That's depressing, Min-jun observed. That's realistic, Sylvia countered, but also empowering. You're responsible for your own happiness. Is that what you do? Celebrate yourself? She met his eyes across the garden table. I'm learning to. It's harder than it sounds. Something passed between them in that moment, some understanding that they were both carrying wounds they didn't talk about. Appa, Sujin interrupted, can we show you the dance Sylvia taught us? Please no, Sylvia groaned. I told you that was private. But the twins were already dragging Min-jun to the grass, demonstrating the Nigerian dance moves Sylvia had taught them, all hip swivels and arm movements. They were terrible at it, completely off rhythm, and it was the most beautiful thing Sylvia had ever seen. Min-jun watched his daughters with something like wonder, and when his eyes found Sylvia's again, she saw the crack in his armor widening. You're healing them, he said later that night, after the twins had gone to bed. He'd found Sylvia on the terrace, looking at the stars. They're healing themselves, Sylvia corrected. I'm just holding space for it. Don't diminish what you've done. He moved closer, and Sylvia's breath caught. In 6 months, you've given them back something I thought was gone forever. Joy, hope, the ability to trust again. They trust you too, you know. They just need you to be present, not perfect. I don't know how to be anything but perfect. His voice was raw. Perfect keeps them safe. Perfect keeps them distant, Sylvia said gently. They don't need a fortress, Min-jun. They need a father. It was the first time she'd used his first name. He noticed, she could tell by the way his breath hitched. You're very direct, Ms. Okonkwo. You hired me for my expertise. This is it. I hired you because you were qualified. I kept you because… He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Because you make this house feel like a home again. The air between them crackled with something dangerous. Mr. Kang, Min-jun, he corrected. When we're alone, just Min-jun. Min-jun, she tested the name on her tongue. This is probably crossing a professional boundary. Probably, he agreed, but he didn't move away. Neither did she. The moment stretched, pulled tight like a rubber band about to snap. Then Sylvia's phone buzzed, shattering the tension. She looked down at the screen and her face went pale. I have to go, she said abruptly. Is everything all right? It's the anniversary, she said quietly. 2 years today, since my sister… Understanding flooded his face. Kioma. She looked up, surprised. You remembered her name? I remember everything you've told me. Something in Sylvia's chest cracked open. Before she could stop herself, before she could think about professional boundaries or the fact that he was her boss, she said. She was 15. We were driving home from her dance recital. I was texting, looking down for just a second, and a drunk driver ran a red light. I survived. She didn't. Sylvia, my father blamed me, still does, said I killed his baby girl. That's why I came to Korea. Because I couldn't stand the way he looked at me anymore. Min-jun did something then that surprised them both. He reached out and took her hand, just held it, warm and steady. My wife's diagnosis came 3 months after the twins were born, he said quietly. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. They gave her a year. She fought for 18 months. Every day was agony, but she smiled for the girls, made me promise I'd protect them no matter what. You've kept that promise. Have I? His voice cracked. Or have I just built a prison and called it protection? They stood there in the darkness, 2 broken people holding hands and sharing wounds, and Sylvia felt herself falling. Not in the easy butterflies way, in the terrifying no-going-back way, in the way that meant she was about to get her heart demolished. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Terrible, he agreed. I work for you. There's a power dynamic. It's unethical. Completely inappropriate. We should stop. Absolutely. Neither of them moved. Then the terrace door flew open and both of them jumped apart like teenagers caught making out. Min-juna! A female voice called out, sugar-sweet and sharp as glass. I've been looking everywhere for you. A woman appeared in the doorway, stunning in a designer dress that probably cost more than Sylvia's car. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her smile like a knife wrapped in silk. Choi Eugene had entered the chat. Eugene, Min-jun said, and Sylvia noticed he didn't sound happy about it. I wasn't expecting you. Surprise visits are more fun, Eugene said, her eyes sliding to Sylvia with unconcealed assessment. And who is this? This is Ms. Okonkwo, the children's therapist. Sylvia corrected, extending her hand even though every instinct screamed danger. Nice to meet you. Eugene's handshake was limp, dismissive. How interesting. Min-jun didn't mention hiring someone so unconventional. The pause before unconventional was deliberate. Sylvia heard what she really meant. I believe in unconventional methods, Sylvia said sweetly. They tend to work better than traditional approaches, especially with trauma. I'm sure, Eugene's smile sharpened, though I do wonder about cultural compatibility. The girls are Korean, after all. They need someone who understands their specific background. They're also citizens of the world, Sylvia countered. And understanding multiple perspectives is valuable. Of course. Eugene turned to Min-jun, effectively dismissing Sylvia. I brought those documents you needed for the board meeting. Shall we discuss them inside? Over wine, perhaps? It's late, Eugene. I insist. We have so much to catch up on. She linked her arm through his possessively. You've been so busy lately, we barely see each other anymore. Min-jun's eyes met Sylvia's over Eugene's head, apologetic and frustrated. I should go anyway, Sylvia said, grabbing her bag. Early morning tomorrow. Good night, Mr. Kang. She deliberately used his formal name, re-establishing the distance. The flash of hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. As Sylvia drove home, her hands shaking on the steering wheel, she knew three things with absolute certainty. She was in love with Kang Min-jun. Choi Eugene was going to be a problem, and she was about to get her heart absolutely destroyed. What she didn't know was that Eugene was already planning how to make that happen. Back at the mansion, Eugene watched Sylvia's taillights disappear and smiled to herself. She'd seen the way Min-jun looked at that woman, had seen the way he'd jumped away from her when Eugene appeared. Something was happening between them, something that threatened the future Eugene had been carefully constructing since Sun-hee died. Time to remind everyone who really belonged in this house, and who didn't. Eugene's plan started small, calculated, like poison administered in doses too tiny to taste until it was too late. It began with photographs. She'd hired a private investigator, Detective Wang, a man whose morals were as flexible as his fees were high. He followed Sylvia for 2 weeks, documenting everything. Her morning coffee runs, her tiny apartment in the less expensive part of Busan, her weekly video calls with someone in Atlanta who made her cry. Her father, Wang reported, sliding the folder across Eugene's pristine desk at her art gallery. Pastor Okonkwo. They had a falling out after her sister's death. He blamed Sylvia for the accident. They've only recently started talking again. Eugene's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the mahogany. Estranged family, financial struggles, a visa dependent on employment. Her smile was razor sharp. Everyone has pressure points. You just have to find them and press. What exactly are you planning? Nothing illegal, Eugene said smoothly, just reminding everyone of the natural order. Min-jun is mine. Those children need a proper Korean mother. That woman is a temporary inconvenience. She seems good with the kids. I don't pay you for your opinions, Detective Wang. I pay you for information. But gathering information wasn't enough. Eugene needed to plant seeds of doubt, slowly and carefully, so Min-jun would never trace them back to her. She started visiting the mansion more frequently, always with perfect excuses. Board meeting documents, charity gala planning, just checking on the girls. Each time she'd make subtle comments, barely there, like spider silk across a doorway. Min-jun, I noticed the girls speaking English with heavy accents now. I hope they're not losing their Korean identity. That woman, Sylvia, she's very affectionate with them, isn't she? Almost possessive. I just worry about appropriate boundaries. The household staff mentioned she's been staying late, past work hours. I'm sure it's innocent, but you know how people talk. Min-jun deflected every comment, but Eugene knew how minds worked. Repetition created reality. Whispers became doubts. Doubts became certainty. What Eugene didn't know was that the twins had already clocked her game. I don't like Imo Eugene, Sua announced one afternoon while Sylvia was helping her with homework. Sylvia looked up from the math problems, careful to keep her voice neutral. Why not? Sweetheart? She's fake. She smiles, but her eyes are mean, and she keeps trying to touch Appa like she owns him. Sua, Sylvia said gently. Adults have complicated relationships sometimes. She wants to marry him, Sujin interrupted quietly. She told us, said she'd be our new Iyama soon. Sylvia's blood went cold. When did she say that? Last week, when you went to get us snacks. She said we needed to get used to the idea because you were temporary, but she was forever. Sujin's voice got smaller. She said people like you don't stay in places like this. Rage, white-hot and righteous, flooded Sylvia's system. She took 3 deep breaths, channeling every ounce of her professional training to keep her voice calm. Listen to me, both of you. People like Eugene say hurtful things because they're insecure. She's wrong about me being temporary. I made you a promise, remember? But she's also wrong about something else. There's no people like you and places like this. You belong wherever you choose to be, and don't let anyone tell you different. But she's right that she might marry Appa, Suwa said, tears welling up. And then she'll make you leave. She'll make everything go back to how it was before, cold and sad and horrible. Sylvia pulled both girls into her lap, holding them tight. Your Appa is a grown man who makes his own choices. But I'll tell you what, how about we make sure he knows exactly what you want? Communication is important. What if he picks her instead of you? Soo-jin whispered. The question hung in the air like smoke. Because that was the real fear, wasn't it? Not just the girls' fear, but Sylvia's too. Then we deal with it, Sylvia said, even as her heart cracked. But we don't borrow tomorrow's problems today. That night, after the twins were in bed, Sylvia found Min-jun in his study, surrounded by security reports and looking exhausted. She knocked on the open door. Got a minute? He looked up, and his whole face softened in a way that made her stomach flip. For you. Always. Dangerous words, Mr. Kang. I thought we agreed it was Min-jun when we're alone. We also agreed professional boundaries were important, and then you went and held my hand on the terrace, so forgive me if I'm confused about the rules. A smile tugged at his mouth. Fair point. What's on your mind? Sylvia closed the door and sat across from his desk. Eugene told the twins she's going to be their new mother, that I'm temporary. The smile vanished. His jaw clenched. She said, what? I'm not here to cause drama, but the girls are upset and confused. They need clarity about what's happening in their lives. Eugene is not going to be their mother. His voice was steel. She was Sunhee's friend, and after Sunhee died, she positioned herself as a family friend, but that's all she is. Does she know that? I've never given her reason to think otherwise. Min-jun, Sylvia said carefully. Sometimes what we don't say speaks louder than what we do. If you're not interested in her, you need to make that crystal clear, for your daughter's sake. You're right. He stood, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I've been avoiding the conversation because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. That was cowardly. Not cowardly. Kind. But kindness to the wrong person can be cruelty to the right ones. Their eyes met and held. The air between them crackled. And who are the right ones, Sylvia? Her breath caught. Your daughters. Just my daughters? The question hung between them like a confession. Sylvia stood, knowing she should leave, knowing this was dangerous territory. I should go. Should you? He moved around the desk, closer. Or do you want to stay? Want and should are very different things. Answer the question. Which one? Both. Sylvia met his eyes, her heart hammering. I want to stay. I should go, and we both know why. Because you work for me. Because I work for you. Because your daughters need stability, not complicated adult drama. Because you're afraid, he finished softly. Like I am. Terrified, she admitted. Of this, of what it could mean, of what happens when it falls apart. What makes you so sure it will? Because everything good in my life eventually does. The raw honesty of it seemed to hit him physically. He reached out, tucking one of her braids behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. What if it doesn't? He whispered. What if this is different? Sylvia closed her eyes, leaning into his touch for just 1 second before stepping back. I can't afford to find out. I've already lost too much. She left before he could respond, before she could do something stupid like kiss him, before she could ruin everything for a feeling that probably wouldn't last. But as she drove home, hands shaking on the wheel, she knew it was already too late. She was already ruined. The next few weeks were torture. Every interaction was charged with electricity they both pretended not to feel. Every accidental touch lingered too long. Every conversation had subtext thick enough to drown in. The twins noticed. Of course they noticed. Why don't you just tell Appa you like him? Suwa asked one day while they were painting. Sylvia nearly choked on her coffee. Excuse me? You like him. He likes you. Everyone can see it except you two. Sua rolled her eyes with all the exasperation of a 6-year-old who thought adults were idiots. It's like watching a drama where everyone is too dumb to talk. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? Because I work for your father. Because there are rules about this kind of thing. Because you're scared, Sujin said quietly, echoing Min-jun's words. Like Appa. Sylvia set down her paintbrush. You two are too smart for your own good. We just want you to stay forever, Sua said. And if you and Appa got married, you'd have to stay. That's how it works. The casual mention of marriage made Sylvia's heart stop. Whoa, nobody said anything about marriage. But you love him, right? Did she? Sylvia looked at these two beautiful, broken, healing children and thought about their father. About how he'd slowly opened up over months, how he'd started smiling again, how he looked at her like she was sunlight and he'd been living in darkness. Yeah, she admitted quietly. I think I do. Then tell him. It's not that easy. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Sylvia almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Okonkwo? A male voice, unfamiliar. This is Detective Wang with Busan Immigration Services. We need to schedule a meeting regarding your visa status. Sylvia's blood went cold. I'm sorry, what? My visa is current. I renewed it 6 months ago. There's been a complaint filed. Questions about the authenticity of your employment. We need to verify some information. Can you come to our office tomorrow at 2 p.m.? A complaint? From who? That information is confidential. We'll discuss it tomorrow. He hung up. Sylvia stared at her phone, her mind racing. A complaint about her employment? There was only one person who would benefit from her visa being revoked. Eugene had just escalated. That evening, Sylvia was debating whether to tell Min-jun about the immigration call when Eugene herself appeared at the mansion, all smiles and expensive perfume. Sylvia? A perfect timing. I brought something for the girls. She held up shopping bags from a luxury boutique. Dresses for the charity gala next month. They'll look like little princesses. That's very kind, Sylvia said carefully, but maybe check with their father first. Oh, Min-jun won't mind. I know the girls' taste better than anyone. Sun-hee and I used to shop for them all the time. The mention of Min-jun's late wife was deliberate, a reminder of who had history here. Sua and Sujin appeared on the stairs, and their faces fell when they saw Eugene. Emo Eugene, Sua said with brittle politeness. We weren't expecting you. Surprise! Come see what I brought. Eugene's enthusiasm felt forced, performative. The twins descended slowly, accepting the bags with automatic thank yous that lacked any real warmth. You try them on, Eugene insisted. I want to see if they fit. We're actually in the middle of something, Sylvia interjected gently. Maybe later. Oh, I'm sure whatever arts and crafts project can wait. Eugene's smile sharpened. This is important. The gala is a major social event. These children need to represent the Kang family properly. They represent themselves just fine, Sylvia said, her tone cooling. Of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. Eugene's eyes glittered with malice masked as concern. Though I have been wondering, are you planning to attend the gala, Sylvia? I wasn't aware I was invited. Well, it's a family event, and your staff, so... Eugene let the sentence trail off delicately. The twins' faces flushed with anger, but before either could speak, Min-jun's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Sylvia is absolutely invited. He stood in the hallway, having appeared from nowhere, his expression darker than Sylvia had ever seen it. As my date. The room went dead silent. Eugene's smile froze on her face. Your date? Yes. Min-jun walked to stand beside Sylvia, close enough that their arms brushed. Is that a problem? I thought, given her position, Ms. Okonkwo's position is whatever she wants it to be. His voice was ice. And Eugene, we need to talk, privately. Eugene's composure cracked slightly. Of course, whatever you need to discuss, now. He gestured to his study, and Eugene had no choice but to follow. her designer heels clicking against marble like a countdown to disaster. The moment they disappeared, both twins grabbed Sylvia. "Appa said you're his date!" Soo-jin squealed. "Did you know he was going to say that?" Soo-ah demanded. "I had absolutely no idea," Sylvia said honestly, her heart racing so fast she felt dizzy. "That was not planned. But you're happy, right?" Before Sylvia could answer, raised voices echoed from Min-jun's study. The door wasn't completely closed and sound carried. "Completely inappropriate," Eugene's voice, no longer sweet. "Taking staff as your date? What will people think?" "I don't care what people think." Min-jun's voice was calm but deadly. "And you need to stop whatever game you're playing." "Game? I'm trying to help you. That woman is using you, using your daughters." "Enough." The single word cracked like a whip. "I've been patient with you out of respect for your friendship with Sunhee. But your behavior towards Sylvia stops now." "Sunhee would want—" "Don't!" His voice went arctic. "Don't you dare tell me what my wife would have wanted. Sunhee wanted me to be happy. She wanted the girls to heal, and Sylvia has given us both. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not setting boundaries with you sooner. You're welcome in this house as a friend. Nothing more. If you can't accept that, then perhaps it's better if you don't visit." Silence. Then footsteps. Eugene emerged from the study, her face a mask of barely controlled rage. She saw Sylvia and the twins in the hallway and stopped. "This isn't over," she said quietly, her eyes boring into Sylvia's. "You think you've won, but you have no idea what you're dealing with." "Is that a threat?" Sylvia asked calmly, even as her pulse skyrocketed. "It's a warning. People like you don't belong in worlds like this, and Min-jun will realize that soon enough." She left, slamming the door hard enough to make the windows rattle. Min-jun appeared in the study doorway, his face exhausted but resolved. His eyes found Sylvia's. "I'm sorry you heard that. I'm sorry you had to say it." They stared at each other across the hallway while the twins watched like spectators at the world's most intense tennis match. "Did you mean it?" Sylvia asked quietly. "About the gala?" "Every word." He took a step closer. "Unless you'd rather not be seen publicly with me." "I know this complicates things." "It completely destroys every professional boundary I've ever had." "I know. People will talk." "Let them. Your business associates will judge." "I don't care." "The twins are already planning what you should wear," Soo-ah interjected. "We heard everything and we approve." Despite the tension, Sylvia laughed. "You two are menaces." "We're invested," Soo-jin corrected. "There's a difference." Min-jun's eyes never left Sylvia's face. "So? Will you go with me?" "Say no," her rational brain screamed. "This is career suicide. This is how you get your heart destroyed. This is how everything falls apart." But her heart, her stupid, hopeful, terrified heart, had other ideas. "Yes," she heard herself say. "I'll go with you." The smile that broke across Min-jun's face was like sunrise after years of darkness. What none of them knew was that Eugene sat in her car outside the gates, phone pressed to her ear, speaking to Detective Wang. "It's time," she said coldly. "I want everything you can find on her. Financial records, past relationships, traffic violations. I don't care how small, everyone has secrets. Find hers. And if she's clean." Eugene's smile was vicious. "Then we make her dirty." She hung up and pulled a small jewelry box from her purse. Inside was a diamond necklace that had belonged to her grandmother. Worth $250,000, insured, documented, perfect for framing someone. Eugene's reflection in the rearview mirror looked like a predator who'd just spotted prey. "Enjoy your little victory." "Sylvia Okonkwo," she whispered. "Because in 3 weeks, you'll be on a plane back to Atlanta with your visa revoked and your heart in pieces. And Min-jun will finally see you for what you are, a gold-digging opportunist who never belonged here in the first place." She started her car and drove away, already planning her next move. Behind the mansion gates, Sylvia shivered despite the warm evening air, a sudden sense of dread washing over her for no reason she could name. "You okay?" Min-jun asked, noticing. "Yeah," she lied, forcing a smile. "Just cold." But deep down, some instinct was screaming that the worst was yet to come. The gala was 3 weeks away when Eugene made her move. She arrived at the mansion on a Tuesday afternoon, all concerned smiles and a velvet jewelry box in her designer purse. Mrs. Song let her in with barely concealed distrust, but Eugene's family friend status still gave her access. "I just came to drop off some family heirlooms for the girls," Eugene explained sweetly. "Things that belonged to Sunhee. I've been holding on to them, but I think it's time they came home." She found Sylvia in the twins' room helping with homework. The girls looked up when Eugene entered, their faces immediately closing off. "Imo Eugene," Sua said with forced politeness. "Hello, darlings. Don't mind me, I'm just leaving some of your Iyama's things." Eugene opened the velvet box, revealing the diamond necklace. It caught the light, throwing rainbows across the walls. "This was Sunhee's favorite. Your Halmione gave it to her. I think she'd want you to have it when you're older." Even Sylvia had to admit it was stunning. White diamonds set in platinum, clearly worth a fortune. "It's beautiful," Sylvia said carefully. "Family treasure," Eugene agreed, placing it in the display case in the twins' room with elaborate care. "Irreplaceable, both monetarily and sentimentally." She turned to Sylvia with a saccharine smile. "You'll make sure the girls understand how precious this is? How important it is to keep it safe?" "Of course." "Perfect." Eugene glanced at her watch. "I have to run, but I'll be back this weekend to check on things. Girls, be good for Ms. Okonkwo." After she left, Sujin whispered, "I don't trust her." "Me neither," Sylvia admitted. "But the necklace really is beautiful. Your Iyama had good taste." What Sylvia didn't see was Eugene lingering in the hallway, watching through the cracked door as Sylvia carefully cleaned the display case later that evening, her fingerprints now all over the glass and the case's interior. Phase 1 complete. 2 days later, Eugene returned. This time, Min-jun was home, working in his study. "Min-juna!" She breezed in without knocking. "I need to borrow the girls for a fitting. The gala dresses need adjustments." "Eugene, I thought we discussed boundaries. This is about the girls, not us." Her smile was patient, patronizing. "Surely you want them to look presentable?" Sylvia happened to be walking past with laundry, part of her duties that she'd insisted on keeping despite Min-jun's protests that he had staff for that. Eugene's eyes tracked her movement. "Actually, Sylvia dear, could you help me with something? I need to grab the necklace to show the jeweler. We're having pieces made to match for the girls. I don't think I should—" "Oh, it's fine. You're practically family now, right?" The words dripped with false sweetness. "Min-jun trusts you completely. Don't you, Min-juna?" Min-jun looked up from his papers, distracted. Yes, of course. Sylvia, whatever Eugene needs." Sylvia's instincts screamed, but she couldn't refuse without seeming paranoid. She retrieved the necklace from the display case, handing it to Eugene while Min-jun watched. "Thank you so much," Eugene cooed, making a show of examining it. "Perfect. I'll have it back by tonight." She left with the necklace in her purse, and Sylvia felt like she'd just made a terrible mistake. That night, Eugene didn't return the necklace. She kept it in her apartment, waiting. 3 days before the gala, she struck. It was early morning. Sylvia always arrived at 7, letting herself in with her key. She went straight to the twins' room to wake them as usual, but they were already up, sitting on their beds looking worried. "What's wrong?" Sylvia asked immediately. "Imo Eugene was here," Sua whispered. "Really early before you came. She said she needed to put something back." "We pretended to be asleep," Sujin added, "but we saw her go into your bag." Sylvia's blood went cold. "My bag? Are you sure?" Both girls nodded. Sylvia's canvas work bag sat in its usual spot by the door. She dumped it out on the floor, heart pounding. Notebooks, pens, her wallet. A lip balm, everything normal. She checked every pocket, every fold, nothing. "Maybe you were mistaken. We know what we saw," Sua insisted. Before Sylvia could respond, chaos erupted downstairs. Eugene's voice, high-pitched and panicked. "It's gone! Min-jun, it's gone!" Sylvia and the twins rushed downstairs to find Eugene in the living room, Min-jun in his running clothes. He must have just returned from his morning exercise. Eugene was pointing at the display case in the twins' room, now visible from the living room. The necklace! Sunhee's necklace! Someone took it. Min-jun's face went hard. When did you last see it? 3 days ago. I was going to have it cleaned for the gala, but I got busy and oh God, Min-jun, it was your grandmother's gift to Sunhee. It's worth over $200,000. Sylvia felt the trap closing but didn't understand how. She'd given Eugene the necklace. Eugene had taken it. Eugene knew where it was. Everyone calm down, Min-jun said, his CEO voice engaged. We'll search the house systematically. It probably just got moved. I think we should check staff belongings first, Eugene said, her eyes sliding to Sylvia, just to rule out any unfortunate possibilities. You think someone on my staff, Min-jun started. I'm not accusing anyone, just being thorough. You understand, Sylvia, don't you? It's just procedure. Sylvia's hands clenched. Of course, search whatever you need. The head of security arrived within minutes. Min-jun must have called him. Sylvia watched as they went through Mrs. Song's things first, finding nothing. Then the other household staff. Nothing. Ms. Okonkwo? The security chief looked apologetic. Your belongings? Already dumped my work bag upstairs, Sylvia said, her voice steady even as her hands shook. But you're welcome to check my car, my locker, whatever you need. They checked her locker in the staff room, her coat pockets, her car. Nothing. Relief started to flood through Sylvia. Whatever Eugene had been planning, it hadn't. Sir. One of the guards emerged from the twins' room. Her bag. There's a hidden pocket in the lining. Sylvia's heart stopped. What? No, there's not. The guard turned the bag inside out, and there it was. A small pocket she'd never noticed, sewn into the lining. And inside that pocket, wrapped in one of Sylvia's own scarves, the diamond necklace glittered like an accusation. The room went silent. Sylvia stared at the necklace, her mind refusing to process what she was seeing. No, that's not. I didn't put that there. I gave it to Eugene 3 days ago. Min-jun, you saw me give it to her. Min-jun's face had gone carefully blank, but his eyes, God, his eyes looked like she'd stabbed him. Min-jun, please. Sylvia took a step toward him. You know me. You know me. I would never. The evidence is right there, Eugene said softly, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Oh, Sylvia, I wanted to believe the best of you. We all did. This is a setup, Sylvia's voice rose. She's framing me. Min-jun, think about it. Why would I steal something and then keep it in my bag at your house? That makes no sense. Criminals often make stupid mistakes, Eugene murmured. Especially when they're desperate. Desperate! I'm not desperate. I don't need your money. Don't you? Eugene tilted her head. Your visa is tied to this employment. You're sending money back to America for your father's medical bills. You're living paycheck to paycheck. That's desperation. How did Eugene know about her father's bills? Sylvia felt sick. Min-jun. She turned to him, ignoring Eugene completely. Look at me. Actually, look at me. Do you really think I'm capable of this? For one heartbreaking second, she saw doubt in his eyes, saw him wanting to believe her. Then his jaw clenched, his military training kicking in, assess the threat, neutralize it, protect what's yours. I trusted you, he said quietly, and each word was a knife. I let you into my home, into my daughter's lives, into... He stopped, but she knew what he'd been about to say. Into my heart. And I never betrayed that trust, Sylvia said, tears streaming down her face now. Not once, not ever. If you throw me out for this, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. The evidence? Fuck the evidence, Sylvia shouted. What about your gut? What about everything you've seen from me over the past year? What about what you feel? The twins had appeared at the top of the stairs, their faces pale and terrified. Appa, no! Suah ran down, grabbing Sylvia's hand. She didn't do it. We know she didn't. Girls, back to your room. We have proof, Soo-jin yelled. We have it on camera. Min-jun froze. What camera? The twins looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Then Sua said, "The teddy bear. Well, the nanny cam you bought us for safety. We've been recording everything because emo Eugene scared us." Eugene's face went white. "What are you talking about?" Min-jun demanded. "The teddy bear in our room." Sua ran upstairs and came back clutching a white stuffed bear with a pink bow. "It has a camera. We saw emo Eugene plant the necklace in Sylvia's bag this morning. We saw everything." "That's ridiculous," Eugene laughed, but it was too high, too sharp. "Children and their imaginations." "Show me," Min-jun said. Sua pressed the bear's stomach, and a small screen flipped out from its back. She navigated the menu with practiced ease and pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear. Timestamp, 6:47 a.m. that morning. The twins' bedroom, shot from the shelf where the bear usually sat. Eugene entered, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and went directly to Sylvia's canvas bag. She pulled the diamond necklace from her purse, found the hidden pocket in the lining. She knew exactly where to look because she'd sewn it there, and placed the necklace inside, wrapped in Sylvia's scarf. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. The room was dead silent. Min-jun's face had gone from stone to something resembling a volcanic eruption held back by sheer force of will. "Min-jun," Eugene started. "Don't." His voice was Arctic winter. "Don't say a word. I can explain." "There is no explanation that makes this okay." He turned to his security chief. "Escort Ms. Choi out. If she resists, call the police." "You can't do this." Eugene's mask finally shattered completely. "I did this for you, for us. She doesn't belong here. She's nobody, a foreign gold digger who was using you. The only person who was using anyone is you." Min-jun's voice could have frozen hell. "You manipulated my grief. You pretended to care about my daughters while traumatizing them. You framed an innocent woman. Get out of my house." "Fine." Eugene spun on Sylvia, all pretense gone. "But don't think you've won. You'll never be accepted in his world. Society will eat you alive. His business partners will reject him. You're a liability he'll eventually resent. This relationship is doomed, and when it falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you." "Are you done?" Sylvia asked quietly. "Enjoy your little victory. It won't last." Security escorted Eugene out, her designer heels clicking against marble like a countdown to exile. The door slammed behind her. Silence flooded the mansion. Then Sylvia's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. The twins immediately surrounded her, crying and apologizing and holding her tight. Min-jun stood frozen, staring at the teddy bear in his hand. At the evidence that his daughters had been smart enough and brave enough to gather. At the proof of how close he'd come to destroying everything that mattered. "Sylvia," his voice cracked. She looked up at him, and he saw devastation in her eyes. "You believed her," Sylvia said. "For a second there, you actually believed I stole from you. I saw it in your face. The doubt, the suspicion. After everything, after all these months, you were ready to throw me away based on planted evidence." "I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this." Sylvia stood, the twins still clinging to her. "Do you know what that felt like? To see you look at me like I was a stranger, like everything we'd built meant nothing? It means everything. Then why didn't you trust me?" Her voice broke. "I have been nothing but honest with you. I have loved your daughters like they were my own. I have—" She stopped, breathing hard. "I can't do this." "Can't do what?" "This, us, whatever this is becoming. Because if you could doubt me that easily, what happens next time? What happens when Eugene was right and your business partners do reject you? When society judges you? When things get hard? Sylvia, please, I need time." She gently detached the twins and headed for the door. "I need to think." "Don't go," Min-jun said, and for the first time since she'd known him, he sounded desperate. "Please, let's talk about this." "I can't. Not right now. I need space." She walked out, leaving behind 3 people who loved her and 1 man who had just realized exactly how much he had to lose. In her car, Sylvia gripped the steering wheel and finally let herself fall apart. Great. heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Because Eugene had been right about one thing, this was always going to be complicated. The cultural differences, the class divide, the professional ethics, the social judgment. But none of that mattered compared to the real issue. Trust. If Min-jun could doubt her after everything they'd been through, how could she ever feel safe with him? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Immigration interview tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't be late or your visa will be automatically revoked. Sylvia stared at the message. Eugene's final revenge. I already set in motion before this morning's confrontation. Even defeated, she'd left behind landmines. Another text, this one from Min-jun. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, please come back. Let me fix this. Sylvia turned off her phone and drove to Grace's restaurant, the only place in Korea that felt like home. Grace took one look at her face and pulled her into a crushing hug. Baby girl, what happened? Through tears, Sylvia told her everything. Grace listened, then said quietly, That man loves you. He doubted me. For 2 seconds, in a situation designed to make him doubt. But he didn't throw you out, did he? He looked for proof, and when he found it, he chose you. But what if next time? There's always a what if next time, Grace interrupted. That's what love is, choosing to trust anyway, choosing to stay anyway. Choosing each other even when it's hard. I'm scared. Good. If you weren't scared, it wouldn't be real. Sylvia's phone, back on now, rang. Min-jun. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again, 7 times in 10 minutes. Finally, Grace said, Answer it or I will. Sylvia picked up. Hello? Thank God. Min-jun's voice was ragged. Are you okay? No, I know. I'm not either. Sylvia, I need to see you to explain. There's nothing to explain. You doubted me. End of story. It's not the end. It can't be the end. He sounded wrecked. The girls are asking for you. Soo-jin won't stop crying. Soo-ah keeps saying it's their fault for not showing me the video sooner. Guilt lanced through Sylvia. Put them on! Scrambling sounds, then Soo-jin's tear-clogged voice. Sylvia-sem? Hey, baby. Please come back, please. We're sorry we didn't tell Appa about the camera sooner. We were scared he wouldn't believe us. This isn't your fault. You two were so brave. You saved me. Then why did you leave? How do you explain adult relationship complications to a 6-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups need time to think, to figure out their feelings. It doesn't mean I don't love you. Do you love Appa? The question hung in the air. On the other end of the line, Sylvia could feel Min-jun holding his breath. Yes, she admitted. I do. Then come back. Please, he's sorry. He's really, really sorry. I know he is, sweetheart. But sometimes sorry isn't enough. Sometimes people hurt each other even when they don't mean to, and they have to figure out if they can fix it. Can you? Fix it? I don't know yet. She hung up before she could start crying again. That night, Sylvia lay in Grace's guest bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The way Min-jun's face had shuddered when he saw the necklace. The way he'd believed, even for a second, that she was capable of theft. The way he'd said, I trusted you in past tense, like that trust was already gone. But also the way he'd looked when the truth came out, devastated, guilty, desperate to fix it. Her phone buzzed with a text. I know I don't deserve it, but please give me a chance to make this right. I'll do whatever it takes. Min-jun. Sylvia stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. I have an immigration interview tomorrow at 2. Eugene filed a complaint about my visa before all this happened. I might be getting deported anyway. So maybe the universe is making this decision for us. His response came immediately. What? No. Give me the details. I'll fix this. You can't fix everything with money and power, Min-jun. Watch me. Send me the information, please. Against her better judgment, she did. What Sylvia didn't know was that Min-jun spent the entire night making phone calls, calling in every favor he had, contacting immigration officials he'd worked with on security contracts, building an ironclad case for why Sylvia's visa should not only remain valid but be extended. Because Eugene had been wrong about one thing. Min-jun wasn't going to let Sylvia go without a fight. Not now, not ever. But trust, once cracked, was a fragile thing. And Sylvia wasn't sure if love was enough to repair it.